Hi there, in today's video I'm gonna show you how I'm building my Sword Master. I'm gonna present you with 3 setups that you can use for yourself. They're gonna be super cheap, mid-budget, pretty expensive. And yeah, let's get over to it. So the first setup that we have here is super budget, around 35k gold for all of this. This build is based upon green items and the Tiny Torment Drunk Alchemist set. You can buy it pretty cheap from the auction house. This setup stays below 27 gear score, so you still can go into the green lobby and basically go through it pretty easy because like, Tiny Torment deals damage over time. You throw the swords, the flask procs. If you're lucky and that's a Thunder Flask, you just add Incineration Flask on top of that. If that's the Fire Flask, you just throw the Thunder Flask on top and just finish the guy because he's running, he's burning, he is afraid, he's shocked. Super easy. The problem you're gonna have most probably is decays and fighters that are using the shield because, well, I'm having problems with them myself. They're pretty tanky on a low gear score. And yeah, it's gonna be a trouble getting rid of them, but I believe you can still do it. And it's not as hard, you just need to play pretty well. You need to kite them, you need to drain their resources, and eventually you're gonna kill them. Moving on to the second setup, I just bought all of those items for 160k. Pretty expensive, I'd say, but still in the long run it can pay off pretty fast because it's really strong. In this build we are focusing on getting Tiny Torment good base damage sword, as this one, for example, 174, 14 dexterity, 6 Tiny Torment, so we're locking up the Tiny Torment straight away with one item. Then we're going for Drunk Alchemist hat with dexterity and another Drunk Alchemist ring. I have here strength and stamina, which locks the second set for me. And after that, I'm going for Force of Trinity 20. Force of Trinity is pretty cheap set compared to, for example, Storm Rage that has enormous price for its items. Force of Trinity items can be bought for like 15-10k each purple, and with a pretty good stats as well. So I focused here on getting at least 20 because I wanted to apply the vulnerability. So I went for the sword, shield. I bought also for myself the necklace, another ring, and I bought gloves and shoes for myself as well to lock the Force of Trinity. And after that, to finish the build, I wanted to add some survivability against the Pyromancers because they start hitting hard pretty much in pretty high gear score. So I went for Dragon Scale, which gonna save me. And as you may see, I locked all the passives here, which is not happening when I'm using my main build that I'm gonna show straight after that. Because I'm using a legendary sword there that's giving me strength instead of dexterity, which makes it harder to lock the passives. But this build is pretty good. It gives you vulnerability, it gives you good burst potential. You can basically delete people pretty fast. In long fights, you apply Tiny Torment and Drunk Alchemist is still present there. So you have some survivability with Dragon Scale. It saves you from fireballs. It saves you from charging fighters that are just popping their Q, doing charge and heavy attack, which is super hard to parry. And yeah, basically it gives you all you need in the range of 140-150k to stay safe and be able to deal pretty decent amount of damage and escape with a pretty high extraction rate. Moving on to the last one. My main setup that I'm using currently is what you can see at the moment. I'm playing with 17th key, which is a legendary item with average price of 4.7 million. Of course, I got lucky and I got it from the event, and I'm not gonna include the price for the sword in the calculation, but let's be honest, it gives pretty good advantage because I have more physical damage, I have all the stats, and yeah, it is what it is. You can't say anything about it. It's just expensive. It's really expensive. The sword itself, Aside from it, I'm using here Heirloom Crown with the weapon damage, max life stacks, and Storm Rage. Same for the sword, weapon damage, max life, and Storm Rage. Why I'm going for the weapon damage is because the swords that we're throwing in the Sword Master, they scale from directly from the weapon damage that you have there. So in addition to building as much weapon damage as possible, it's preferable to hold the weapon that has more damage whenever you're shooting them. So let's say instead of holding a flask in your hand, you need to take a sword, and I'm gonna show you exactly why right now. So let's test. Let's say we're throwing the sword from potion, torch, whatever you have there. The amount of damage we deal, 102. Let's switch for a two-handed sword that has tremendous amount of physical damage there. 116. Already almost 15% more damage. Scale it with the swords, scale it with the target defense levels, ignores, and everything that you're gonna have there. And in the end, it's gonna be a big difference when it comes to damage that you deal to your target. So this setup that I have here is based again on my favorite at the moment set, Storm Rage. It gives you burst potential even higher than the Force of Trinity, because with Force of Trinity you need to stay close to target. Whenever it comes to the Storm Rage, you're not only dealing 200 lightning damage, but you also become faster and you slow down your target for a little bit, which gives you an opportunity to close the gap between two of you. So what I'm using here is two heirloom items, legendary for Storm Rage. I have a Storm Rage shield, I have a Storm Rage necklace, ring, gloves, and shoes. I'm using Faith here because I want to keep it cheaper, but I could go for Dexterity, which would make those gloves and shoes cost like 50k more. So I'm trying to spend less, but if you want to go for best in slot equipment, I would recommend going for Dexterity there to log the last passive, and you're gonna be fine. In addition to that, of course, Dragon Scale. Without the Dragon Scale in high gear score lobbies, you're basically gonna get one-shotted by anyone. So it's super necessary to have it, otherwise just gonna die from one fireball, or even worse, with one swing of a two-hander. So yeah, better use it. This setup on average costs me, every time I lose it, around 250, 270k, depending on which rolls I'm getting and everything. It's a little bit easier to get since I'm using the crown here and the sword, the crown gives me a 9% damage increase, which is really nice. I can put my max life stacks over there, which also is perfect. And the sword, of course, locking it up every time takes around 20k to 30, depending on how lucky I am. So every run I'm going, it's at least 30k spent. Not really nice, but, well, it's what it takes, so I can go with the legendary sorting. I hope you liked the video. Drop a like, write a comment. Don't forget to visit me live when I'm streaming every day 10 AM UTC+2 on Twitch. Check out other social media like TikTok that I have. I post there daily. And I'm working currently on a video how to fight every class with a Sword Master, which is coming really soon whenever I have enough material for it. So make sure to drop a subscribe button here on YouTube not to miss it. See you in the next one. Bye bye.